Terrorists open fire on tourists in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam. Over 28 feared dead, unofficial numbers. Yet a confirmation awaited from the officials. Union Home Minister Amit Shah reaches Srinagar, says terrorists will not be spared. Prime Minister Modi in Saudi Arabia for a 2-day visit, calls ties with Saudi Arabia as limitless, bats for trade and strategic growth. A royal welcome indeed for Prime Minister Modi in Saudi today. US Vice President JD Vance visits Amer Fort in Jaipur, witnesses cultural performance featuring folk dances. Vance also praises Prime Minister Modi's global appeal, says Modi is the most popular leader among all democracies. BJP secures TDP backing for Rajya Sabha bypoll from Andhra Pradesh. Former Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai is a frontrunner to secure the seat, and the other name that's doing the rounds, former Union Minister Smriti Irani. BJP is Bansuri Swaraj taking a leaf out of Priyanka Gandhi's tote bag, where she had condemned the Palestine attacks. Here you have Bansuri Swaraj flaunting a caption on that bag that says National Herald ki loot, a direct jibe at the Gandhis. Maharashtra government stays its order to make Hindi compulsory for students of class 1 to 5. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah orders legal action against Indian Air Force officer who was seen exchanging blows on a biker, a video that's now gone viral. In fact, Siddaramaiah says action should be taken against him. There's also a fire that's now been filed by the biker himself against the wing commander. The investigation now intensifies with the Karnataka government taking keen interest. Former top cop, DGP Om Prakash of Karnataka, who was allegedly murdered by his wife. His wife has now been arrested. Probe reveals that his wife Pallavi could on ways to kill, on how a person can die when veins are cut at the neck. The officer's son, in fact, has filed a complaint suspecting his sister's role as well, along with his mother. In Sharbat Jihad row, Baba Ramdev buckles after the High Court in Delhi wraps him. He finally agrees to take down the anti-Ruh Afza advertisement. Remember, here Baba Ramdev had claimed that Ruh Afza brand has in fact become popular, and they've basically pushed it to get all the money out and build mosques. Sharbat Jihad is what he kind of referred to it as, the Delhi High Court taking serious objection to it. The most shocking civilian terror strike that's happened today in Jammu and Kashmir leaves us stunned. A bloodbath in Kashmir's paradise in what appears to be a premeditated attack clearly designed to target non-Muslim tourists. 20 visitors were gunned down at the Pahalgam Hill Resort. 2 of the injured are currently critical. The numbers could go up. In fact, we hear unofficial reports suggest 28 of them have died. We're waiting for official confirmation. One of them could be 43-year-old Manjunath from Shimoga, Karnataka. In fact, he's a real estate entrepreneur. Manjunath, if I could play out his image there, Manjunath hails from Karnataka. In fact, he and his family were on vacation to Kashmir just 4 days ago, and now it appears that his family has lost him. If we could play the image of Manjunath from Karnataka, please. In fact, the attack that had taken place today at Baisaran, a scenic car-free meadow, that entire area is accessible only by foot or on ponies. In fact, a favorite tourist spot, especially during springtime. What unfolded there today was sheer horror, though. Witnesses say the terrorists asked for identities before opening fire. One woman, inconsolable, says her husband was shot point blank after revealing that he was Hindu. According to sources, 7 heavily armed terrorists opened fire from close range, spraying bullets on the group of tourists, including people from Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Odisha, Gujarat and Maharashtra. Bodies were seen scattered across the meadows. In fact, I'm going to take you through an image here. One image where a lady is seen seated with her husband. We hear the husband has passed away. She was on a honeymoon. This is a lady who was on honeymoon with her husband. Her screams unanswered, her world entirely shattered. Helicopters were pressed in for emergency evacuations. Locals carried the wounded down the hill. In fact, many of them were rescued by the locals as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called the attack a heinous act, vowing those behind it will not be spared. The evil agenda of terrorists, he says, will never succeed. You also had Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who's condemned the massacre, calling it dastardly attack. He is currently en route to Srinagar for an urgent security meeting. Says those responsible will face the harshest consequences. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has called it the worst civilian attack in years. These terrorists are not humans, he says. He calls them animals. He says this is much larger than anything that we've seen before. Now, from Srinagar, tourists are no longer being allowed towards Pahalgam. That's the security measure that's been taken. The entire area has been cordoned off. If I could take you through some security visuals there. This is coming right from early today. Entire area has now been sealed. An anti-terror operation that's currently underway. The question, of course, now is much deeper and much darker. What really drives such hate? Is this just about land or is this about religion? Which faith commands its followers to shoot innocents after asking their religion? Where are these jihadis really getting their funding from? They're so emboldened. Where do they get their money from? Who's radicalizing them to this level of depravity? Of course, this wasn't just a terror strike. It was a message, a clear message soaked in blood that Hindus or anyone seen as outsiders are not safe in this part of the valley. It was a clear message sent out. And unless the roots of this radicalism are crushed, Kashmir's peace will remain a myth.
देखिए, बदकिस्मती है कि ये अटैक नहीं होना चाहिए था और अटैक जो हुआ है इसको हम स्ट्रांगली कंडेम्ड करते हैं और वो लोग जो लोग ये सोचते हैं कि हम जम्मू कश्मीर को इन छोटी छोटी हरकतों से या अपने टूरिस्ट के ऊपर अटैक करने से हम जम्मू कहीं ना कहीं डगमगाने की कोशिश करेंगे तो वो कभी कामयाब नहीं होंगे। ये जम्मू कश्मीर बहुत मजबूत है, ये हिंदुस्तान बहुत मजबूत है और ये छोटी मोटी जो चीजें हो रही हैं आज से 30 सालों से लगातार हो रही हैं, आज तो वो लोग कामयाब नहीं हुए, आगे भी कामयाब नहीं होंगे।
कायर पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादियों ने दक्षिण कश्मीर के पहलगाम में पर्यटकों के ऊपर कायराना आतंकी हमला किया है। कायर पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादी भारतीय सेना, जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस और हमारे पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस के जांबाज वीरों का तो सामना कर नहीं सकते। इन कायर, इन बुज़दिल पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादियों ने कश्मीर को घूमने आए निहत्थे निर्दोष पर्यटकों को निशाना बनाया है। कुछ पर्यटकों को घायल अवस्था में वहां स्थानीय हॉस्पिटल में जेरे इलाज के लिए दाखिल किया गया है। सारे क्षेत्र की घेराबंदी सेना पुलिस ने कर दी है।
All right, let me bring in our experts here. Of course, Aditya Raj Kaul, who is executive editor on national security and strategic affairs with TV9, joins me right here live. We also have Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan, retired strategy and geopolitical expert. We also have Major General SP Asthana, retired strategy and defense expert. PK Mishra, former ADG BSF. Lieutenant General DP Pandey, strategy and defense expert. Sir, a quick word, if I could bring in from Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan, if your take on this kind of terror strike that's really left us stunned. We haven't seen a strike like this on the tourist population before, and it particularly aimed at non-Muslims. We hear testimonies coming in from the victims there, their families who've survived, who said that their people were asked of their identity and then shot at point blank. How would you view this?
Good evening to you. Thank you for calling me to your show. The attack has shocked me, as I'm sure it's shocked all our countrymen. The issue is that, to my mind, Kashmir cannot become so stable so quickly. It will take a lot of time for us to push back the terrorists, to push back their infrastructure. And while we do this, we would, the tourists must be very careful. I mean, the administration in Kashmir must be very careful not to send tourists unless they are escorted and unless they are protected in all places, because such kind of bad news affects us in many ways. And obviously the terrorists have targeted the tourists because of the American Vice President who is here with us, JD Vance. And that's the problem, that every time there's a high profile visit that comes to India, they will try and make us look weak. So it's obviously a Pakistan ploy. It's obviously Pakistan's proxies who are doing what they're doing. But at our stage, I would request the powers that are administratively ruling Jammu and Kashmir today, as well as the Home Ministry, that please protect the tourists, ensure that they go only to places where they can be protected. And that's the only way we can sort of make sure that this kind of bad news doesn't come and affect our tourism and affect our economy. We must never allow these tourists to dictate or to affect the projection of India as a peaceful nation.
We also have Ambassador Prabhu Dayal joining me. Ambassador, thanks very much for taking your time out. This is a serious story, and these are live visuals. If I could bring our viewers' attention, that's the live candlelit march. If we could cut across to that live candlelit march that's happening right now in Kashmir. It certainly sent chills down our spine. The news that came in a little earlier today, in fact, Aditya Raj Kaul can corroborate. Aditya, we hear unofficial reports say 28 dead. Of course, waiting for a confirmation. What more would you know?
Well, it's a dastardly terror attack, Nabila. That's what we've been told. The details are horrific. The official number has not been put out. We expect a statement by the Jammu and Kashmir police shortly, giving details of what exactly happened and what the investigations are currently underway. I've spoken to multiple sources in the police, in the military intelligence, in the intelligence bureau also. They have confirmed to me that 28 people, 27 men and 1 woman have been killed in a most brutal fashion 2:30 p.m. this afternoon in Baisaran of Pahalgam. There were at least 6 terrorists who came and checked the identities of all the victims, mostly male members who were enjoying a very good time with their family members there. And Pahalgam, largely, Nabila, has been a very peaceful location for years together. I personally haven't heard of such a terror attack for many, many years. What this reminds me is of 2000 and Chhati Singh Pura happened, where at least 35 to 36 innocent Sikh members were killed in the Chhati Singh Pura village of South Kashmir in Anantnag. Apart from that also, while this event has sent down a chill, in the conscience of the people, has been shaken really after this terror attack. But I'm pretty sure that the government of India, that the military chiefs, the intelligence chiefs and the security forces would be planning a two-pronged strategy. One, to wipe out these terrorists who were involved in this attack in South Kashmir and otherwise in other areas of the Kashmir Valley. And secondly, a response to Pakistan. Because usually when we speak of such terror attacks, which is direct attack not just in Kashmir on the people, but it's an attack on Indian democracy, it's an attack on Indian government and its people. So there has to be a very calculated and well-calibrated response that has to be there. What we do understand, and I've covered the Uri terror attack that happened in the North Kashmir, and thereafter we had the surgical strikes. Further, when the Pulwama dastardly terror attack took place, where 40 CRPF Jawans were killed, we had the Balakot. And in the escalation ladder now, whatever be the response, and most likely a military response, certainly there will be a tough response that will be given to Pakistan deep state. What I expect now, because Prime Minister is in Saudi Arabia, the Home Minister has landed in Kashmir, the Prime Minister would arrive in New Delhi tomorrow, and immediately a Cabinet Committee of Security, CCS meeting would be called in. Before that, Prime Minister would be briefed by NSA Ajit Doval on what has happened and transpired over the last many hours and what's been India's response. And then the three service chiefs, the intelligence chiefs, and the top of the intelligence brass in India and the security brass would come in a room and discuss what are the multiple options that India really has. And over the course of the next few weeks, you could see a very strong response coming in from India.
All right. Ambassador, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. This wasn't a random gunfire as you saw it. This was clearly an identity-based massacre. The fact that tourists were asked about their religion before they were gunned down really shows this wasn't about the border Kashmir alone. It's a lot more. The radicalization that's happened so intense. Never did we imagine that they would use tourists as their soft targets. Do tell us, sir, how can we sink this in?
Well, there are a few things which are very, very obvious. The timing of this attack is extremely important. Firstly, it has taken place when the US Vice President is in India, because somehow this brings the incident more prominent. Secondly, it has happened when our Prime Minister is in Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan has always tried to project the Kashmir issue as an Islamic one. And I'm not surprised that this particular incident happened where tourists were asked to identify their religion and non-Muslims were killed, because the Pakistanis always have tried to project as if the Kashmiri Muslims are unhappy about Kashmir being a part of India. So in this context also it's important. Thirdly, I suspected something would happen after Tahawur Rana was extradited, because Pakistan was extremely upset. It was furious about this extradition, and it was expected that it would try to do something which would be an act of revenge. And above all, as you pointed out, there was a sense of well-being in Kashmir. Kashmir was thriving in terms of tourism. The Pakistanis didn't like this at all, and for this reason also, the timing of the attack is very significant if it's seen in the broad context. Now, let me also mention that I served in Pakistan over 4 decades ago, and I had noticed how the Pakistan army would speak of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. And that continues to be the narrative of the Pakistan army. It has not given that narrative, and it has tried to hurt us through state-sponsored terrorism. This is an incident like that because this particular outfit, the Resistance Front, which carried out this terrorist attack, is closely aligned with the Lashkar-e-Taiba. In fact, it is an offshoot of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. So this particular aspect, that the involvement of a Pakistan-based terrorist outfit in this particular incident is very significant, and I think we have to take stock of the situation. We must do something which sends across a message. Firstly, there are calls for retaliatory action. The government has to take into account the pros and cons, the costs, the consequences. But there is certainly a lot to be said in favor of separatist forces within Pakistan. There are separatist forces like the Baluch Liberation Front, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and India must do everything possible to strengthen them. They will weaken Pakistan. They have to weaken Pakistan, because if Pakistan stays in the way it is, then these sort of terrorist attacks against India will continue to happen. And therefore, I think it is extremely important that we must end this matter once and for all, slowly and steadily, with our efforts directed in the context of taking concerted action.
If I could bring in Major General Asthana, Pahalgam isn't a military site. As we know, it's not a government office. It's entirely a tourist meadow. So when tourists are being literally targeted, soft targets, especially honeymooning couples and families, it really speaks volumes of their desperation and barbarity there.
Certainly, it's a dastardly act. And before I answer your question, my condolences to all who have been killed, sympathies with those, with their relatives and those who are injured. We wish them a speedy recovery. That's one part of it. As far as this terror act is concerned, I think in addition to what other panelists have spoken, I would say that it is a very well planned attack by Pakistan without any doubts, and the sequence of events is slightly different in a manner that we heard Pakistani chief when he highlighted two issues. One was Hindu-Muslim issue, second was Kashmiri issue. They have a problem with, they can't handle BLA and they can't handle TTP. They need to divert attention. They also have, as others have brought out, JD Vance was here. Earlier, if you recall, when President Trump came for the first time, the protest started a day before President Trump came and they ended the day he left. So they were motivated. In this case also, there is a motivational message, whether it is American support to Israelis or there can be other messages too. That's one part of it. Now let me talk about the responses. See, we can respond in two manners, that is overt responses and covert responses. There are many options on the table. I'm sure those who are responsible to take action, they would be deliberating on all the options and pros and cons of all the options, as has been said. Now, the question is, as far as the overt response is concerned, Aditya mentioned as to how the sequence will perhaps go. But more than that, I'm sure there would be enough planning would be on in advance as well. As far as the overt options are concerned, there are many. Whether it is because we have seen now the kind of actions which were taken by various countries when the terror attack came, whether it is Israel, whether it is USA, or whether it is Russia. So international precedents exist. Countries have taken action when they were attacked by terrorists. They have violated, or shall I say, they have gone on to the other countries to attack. So those precedences exist. So I don't think international opinion is a very major issue at this point of time. The second issue is the covert options. I'm sure there are many options as far as covert options are concerned. And in that, so many, I think we need to certainly target their leaders and the leaders of these establishments, and perhaps as was being mentioned, I mean, I won't talk too much about the covert options now because that comes in the classified domain. But now let me look at the third option. Now the third option is, which is most important. Like it or not, the fact is that all these attacks are taking place in India. So therefore, there are collaborators, there are sleeper cells, and there are sympathizers. And today, I think all people of Kashmir must realize that if somebody is hitting on your stomach and if somebody is hitting on your prosperity, he cannot be your friend. And why the hell are they being shielded? They are being shielded. If they were not being shielded, they have not gone back to Pakistan. Somebody would have told by now to the security forces as to where they are hiding. The fact is that they are getting intelligence, they are getting logistics, they are getting all kinds of support from certain segment of people, of locals. And therefore, this is the commodity, that is sympathizers, on which we must act exactly the way we act on terrorists. Earlier, I think that we have little soft on these fellows for the simple reason because after President Trump went, all those people who were responsible for the protests, I don't think anything very much happened to them. Similarly, so many sympathizers have been caught, nothing very much has happened to them. Laws are weak, UAPA is weak, quota was a little stronger law. Yeah. I think we need stronger laws as well. Sympathizers, they emboldened the terrorists because terrorists cannot survive otherwise. So I think this is the internal weakness that I think we need to also address, along with what we are going to do, which I am sure in times to come will get revealed. Action, yes, there must be an action. There is no doubt about it. And the other issue is that there is an aim behind it. The aim is firstly to discredit India. Second is to discredit, to reduce the tourism and prosperity of Kashmir. I think the apt reply will be that we do not fall prey to and let their aim succeed. So therefore, as was being brought out.
But
Then,
how are they so easily succeeding time and again? And this time they've managed to get into a very busy tourist area, a spot which has been struck before. It's not the first time that Pahalgam has been attacked. It's been attacked earlier as well. So it is a susceptible, vulnerable spot. But nonetheless, they still managed to come by with such ease, with such ammunition, 7 of them in stealth, and carry out this fatal attack on nearly 28 people. Unofficial reports claim that the number, death toll, could rise to 28. We're waiting for an official confirmation on that. But how are they finding their way so easy? PK Mishra, if you could step in on this.
Yes, I can well tell you, you are correct. The death toll is 28. In fact, I lost one boy from my village also. His name is Prasant Satpathy. He's from my village and I lost him. He's one of them who is dead now. He had been to Pahalgam for a visit and he is no more. I can well tell you it is very well planned. You see the statement of General Munir just before 3 days. Absolutely, it was anti-Hindu statement which he has uttered. And it is a plan, absolutely meticulous planning by General Munir and ISI. And they have done it through Lashkar-e-Toiba and TRF, through their sleeper cells in Pahalgam area, in those area, Basan hilltop, where this tourists they have gone. They have selected the site very clearly that there will be no deployment of security forces, something surprising. Where our tourists are going in Kashmir, deployment of security forces are not there, number one. Number two, it's a big security, big intelligence failure also. We just couldn't come to know that they can come in a big number, 6, 7 to 8, and coming with uniform and weapons and taking on the tourists, which never happened. I can well go back to that time when Masib kidnapped 13 foreigners in Anantnag forest. Of course, Masib was apprehended by me, the chief of Al-Faran, and he was given death sentence by Supreme Court. And this has happened definitely when they have selected the time when Vice President JD Vance is there in India, and of course our Prime Minister is at Jeddah, but they have shown that they can do it. Number two thing, they wanted to divide. They wanted that, yes, they will strike only on Hindus so that there will be a communal friction between Hindus and Muslims in India. I take you back from Pahalgam, Srinagar to West Bengal, Murshidabad. It's not that in Murshidabad one community has done, certainly not. It's not that only Bangladesh militant Jamatis, they have done it at Murshidabad. It is that ISI which has planned through Jamatis in Bangladesh. They did it at Murshidabad, and the same thing is happening here also, what they have done. And they are successful in doing it because they knew that this area is not covered with security forces and we have lost. I will tell you that the only reply to them, it's not that only one Balakot we have done after Pulwama. We should go for strike for every such incident happening by Pakistan. Definitely the involvement of Pakistan, it is confirmed in this. I repeat, it is confirmed in this because they have their sleeper cells. I was listening to other speakers also. I agree with them. We have numbers and numbers of sleeper cells everywhere in Kashmir. And those people have supported them and they have kept them in their houses and they have guided them to they are available in those areas. We have to find out and we have to apprehend those hundreds and hundreds of men, those who are anti-nationals and they are threat to our national security and they are puppets in the hand of ISI. They are, and that is what it has happened today. And I will tell you, if we don't do Balakot type of strikes now, in fact, will be losing like this, and they will be striking always. And
So
they will be
you're
successful in
basically
their-
suggesting war against Pakistan. Is that more or less?
It is
what
not
you're-
a war. I repeat, I don't agree with you. They have done a thing. They have done Pulwama, and we replied. And this will be again another what war we have to do it. It's not a war. We have to teach them a lesson. If we don't do it, I repeat, if we don't do it, we'll be facing this type of thing time and again, and they are doing it.
Right.
It is
Heard
General
you loud
Muni's
and clear.
plan.
PK Mishra, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Does General DP Pandey also resonate with your views? If I could get you in, General Pandey, your take on what's happened today. It seems like the worst terror strike on civilians in the recent past. Really shaken us when news broke out, and we hear the death toll is only mounting. How would you view this terror strike? And here you have PK Mishra, who says that if we don't teach them a lesson, referring to Pakistan, then this will continue.
Yeah, okay. So first, very quick, this thing, I've served 7 tenures in Valley. Possibly this is the most dastardly act which has happened. And we were always prepared and knew that such like thing will always come out of the toolkit of Pakistanis and the stooges which are operating inside our country. But I think Mr. Mishra has very well articulated the situation, how it's been brought through the Bangladesh, through element sleeping cell. The timing and everything has been got very accurately. But I just want to again put a context here, because number of times people have asked me, especially when I was the corps commander and last about 3 years, that the situation is very, very peaceful. So I've always said it is peaceful, but peace is not there. And unfortunately, a 100-year contest which has been on, certainly in about 4 to 5 years, just because the government posture has changed by application of 370 and certain degree of law enforcement is being done, you can't take the virus out of the mind of the people who have been brought and groomed up to an ideology which is very, very anti-national and stuff like that. My suggestion will be that possibly we need to actually start looking at a long-term policy. Please understand that while China, which is a long-term principal contestant, you have a Chinese study group. But in case of handling of Pakistan and the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and such like things, we don't have a long-term strategy in place to apply. Similarly, our intelligence sources, the moment there is success and peace is on, we start looking at denuding forces, we want to take out forces, we want to relax, and you have the political establishment coming out and saying that we should not be stopped in this thing, there should be greater freedom of movement onto the on the roads. And I was asked this question a number of times by the locals and people at that point of time and as a corps commander, and I always said that trust me, the people are waiting to strike hard at you. And if you have to go through this trauma of checks and balances on the road and certain degree of intrusion into private lives, it is good for the people, because as stability and long-term peace will come about, you'll find these actions going out. They were planning for a long time a new strategic hit. So while our focus continuing to remain onto Jammu region, this set was being played out to be struck at a time, and the most, Pahalgam is one of the most important place where they hit. It's not only about economy, it's about the Amarnath Yatra, which is going to roll out in just about a month's time.
Yeah.
It is hitting in a psyche on religious tenor. It is also cocking a snoop onto the intelligence network and the security forces which are deployed there. It is also enabling a small segment of voice which is separatist tone, right, which is still talking that we need to talk to Pakistan, we need to be swayed. There is an element which is in the political establishment which is there, which is talking of some very, very negative religious tone and tenor. And this is in support and in cahoots with this establishment. Possibly,
right.
I will not go for that idea of recommending waging of war per se, because the government of India has got number of tools in its kit to be applied not only into Pakistan but as a leverage in people who are working against the government of India, against our national interest within the country. We also need to look inside what is going wrong, why people are moving around the way they are moving, why sleeper cells are coming about. We need to get after them. Actions which have been taken by Jammu and Kashmir UT administration for last about 4 to 5 years need to be explored and applied pan these sleeper cells which are operating don't have space to operate. I
Right.
think that needs to roll out very fast.
You know, I just have a question for Aditya to jump in here on the Kashmir resistance, the hashtag Kashmir resistance post that's now circulating that speaks, that particularly says, and I quote, more than 85,000 domiciles have been issued to non-locals, basically allowing for non-locals to, establish their home there. And that's against our views. Basically, these non-locals arrive posing to be tourists and then obtain domicile certificates and then begin to act as if they own the land. And consequently, violence will be directed towards those attempting to settle here illegally. That's precisely the message that's been sent out. So, is this a way or a method to claim responsibility for this, saying that this is the reason to why we're attacking you?
You know, this is the TRF. It's the front for Lashkar-e-Toiba. And for them, I am also an outsider as a Kashmiri. So these Punjabis from Pakistan and funded by Rawalpindi and GHQ want us to believe their propaganda and all this. This is not going to work. Better than me, General Pandey knows, and he has worked recently in Kashmir and is one of the reasons that most of these top terrorists have been wiped off across South Kashmir. But, you know, Nabila, the propaganda is there, and the reality on ground is that Pakistan will never stop with this propaganda. And Asim Munir's speech should have been a wake-up call in many ways.
Yeah.
He was very direct, he was very blunt, he was also very frustrated, and his body was almost shaking, where he was frustrated with Pakistan not being able to do much in Pakistan, in Kashmir Valley, and of course in Pakistan itself. He wants to deflect attention from what's happening in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this is a fit timing for them, because they want to internationalize the issue where JD Vance is here, Prime Minister is in Saudi, but they will still not get the international support that they are still waiting for. You know, over the years, Pakistan has been isolated on international forums, diplomatically and otherwise. Even the Muslim nations today think twice if they really want to go with Pakistan. From Saudi Arabia to Kuwait to UAE to Maldives, you know, every Islamic country today wants to have ties with India because of India's, you know, attitude towards the world, not Pakistan.
No, and who would ever support a terror strike like this when your main target are innocent tourists? I highly doubt anybody would support it, but the outrage. General Shaukin, your take on the outrage. We see many of the human rights lobbies that usually otherwise are speaking over their lungs, condemning atrocities, are largely silent when it comes to Kashmir. Why do you think that happens?
Because the entire idea that, the entire idea of that whatever they're looking for or whatever kind of advertisement they're looking for themselves is lost because the terrorists have conducted such a strike. They'll be silent at the moment. There might be a few, pious voices that people might say they're appalled, but then it will be business as usual. I've been listening to all the other panelists. I must say I agree with General Pandey, I agree with Aditya, I agree with General Asthana. I agree with all of them in the sense that there are three issues here, Nabila. Firstly, what do we do from here? We all know why they've done it. We conducted that completely. We also know that what we have to do, is this a situation for war? Is this a situation for something less than war? Is this a situation of first making our house or getting our house in order? I think we must go point-wise. The first issue, as General Pandey has also said, that Aditya has also said, is get our house in order. Get the overground workers, get the people working with the terrorists, identify them now, and take your time. There is no hurry. We don't have to prove anything to anybody that we have to attack in a particular time frame or we have to create the same kind of damage in Pakistan. That damage will be created and will be done provided we have our house in order. And we must have that by identifying and getting the information and getting the intelligence of who these people actually are. And once we have that, we must take judicial action, which will tell the terrorists that this kind of action will not be accepted. Just like General Pandey had 7 tenures in the valley, I too have done a lot of my command tenures, almost 3 command tenures of my battalion, of my brigade and my division in the valley or in J&K. And at each one of the situations was that, do I react or do I create a situation by which I ensure that this kind of situation does not happen again? We must identify the people involved, out the overground workers. We must make sure that this does not affect our economy. We must make sure that the people who Asim Munir is trying to make sure that our own population is affected by a reaction to this are not affected. So in every way, we need to be smarter in carrying out what we need to do. And I do not subscribe to this immediate retaliation. That's not something a responsible nation does. We must do it in our time with information and with full responsibility of what the likely effects are going to happen tomorrow morning. As far as this is concerned, Nabila, be clear that the Indian state is not a soft state. Be clear that we will retaliate the way we want to, and be clear that what we do will have far greater effect on Pakistan than a short-term retaliatory strike.
You know, I'd like to tell our viewers that JD Vance, speaking extensively on the timing that the strikes have happened, JD Vance has spoken out on Twitter. In fact, X, he says, Usha and I extend our condolences to the victims of the devastating terrorist attack in Pahalgam, India. Over the past few days, we have been overcome with the beauty of this country and its people. Our thoughts and prayers are with them as they mourn this horrific attack. A word coming from the US Vice President himself. Right in time, while he's here, he's completed his meeting with Prime Minister Modi yesterday. A lot of bilateral talks that happened. A great statement of bonhomie between India and US was established. But and just a day later, these attacks really, it does suggest that it was done with an intention to send out a message to the world. Sir Pandey, General Pandey, your take on that? A statement to the world. What exactly are these terrorists trying to achieve by ensuring that this terror attack is timed with JD Vance's visit?
So terrorists are not trying to achieve, right? It is the Pakistanis who are trying to achieve what they want to achieve. This is an inflection point for government of India, for people of India, more importantly for people of Kashmir. If you really want to strategize and change this time which has happened as a very, very sad loss, there are a couple of points which you need to take home. The Kashmiri population is majorly anti-such activity because not only affects them, but they are technically right now enjoying the peace dividends which have been on for the last about 5 years. This inflection point has to be utilized firstly to ensure that the Kashmiri population is taken to rise against the terrorist attacks and the people who are supporters of terrorists. They know it, right? So I'm sure with the greater engagement, because one has experimented with this facet, I'm quite sure we can actually root out the support network which is there, which can be identified, and if good intelligence is used, we'll be able to take this out. The second point, don't start believing we need to go into not only social media but in all systems that TRF is actually Lashkar-e-Tauba, as Aditya says. We need to keep on not using TRF but use Lashkar-e-Tauba, which is actually funded, supported, led by the Pakistanis. Because the moment you start using TRF, it becomes a resistance force decarbonised. It looks as if it's a local resistance. We need to keep on talking about this, that the entire league stops in Pakistan at the doorstep of Asif Munir and his rogue people who are actually used to only fire on unarmed people. They can rape women, they can kill women in 1971, they can do it in 47-48, they can done it to their Baluch people who are being killed, unarmed civilians who are being sorted out. They can do it in Baltistan, they can do it in Sindh. And oh, by the way, they can also do it across the world and particularly in Kashmir at will. So possibly this is a time in which we must muster the global outrage on this facet and take it home to Pakistan to actually start looking at it much. That's a major diplomatic tool which they have handed over to us. While we may go for punishment in other forms which are there in the toolkit of our country, but of course I think we must use as an inflection point to actually take this part of home on variety of levels onto this. Also on this part, you mentioned about human rights organization.
Yeah.
I must tell Nabila that they will not speak about it, right? And even if they speak, because a particular set of
They're divided on the.
no, they will not. They are paid through a certain segment. We all understand. If they may want to find a slant into it, they may work at it.
Yeah.
Right? They will be looking for slants. But the fact of the matter is, in this case, is very clear, open and shut case. The local population, local intelligence, and everybody is very clearly saying is a terrorist attack, and the TRF has come about and accepted it. Let's say they're not slant. And having accepted it, let's not accept. And this is also time to actually call them out, that they need to come out and step up, that they need not look at the paymasters, but also speak against their paymasters when there is a common civilian killing which is done in cold blood by the people who have been supported, funded, and actively propped up in this location. This thing, possibly what I come to know, is done by the foreign terrorists who've been inducted. And when I say foreign terrorists, it's technically the Pakistani Punjabi terrorists who have come about and do this very, very horrific act. And if it doesn't shake the consciousness of the world today, it will never touch anybody.
You know, there are unofficial reports that claim that many of them were stripped to check their identity, if they're Muslim or not. You know, those kind of testimonies really shatter me. I'm shocked to see that that's the level that they're going down to, right? This kind of radicalization, I'm just appalled. General Pandey, you've seen this kind of atrocity that's happened before in a similar fashion, where they've checked identities. I could very well imagine.
There is something new level. They have gone. You please understand that they are trying to replicate what is happening in Balochistan, right? In which an incident has come about when the Punjabis were taken out and knocked off. But even in that case, they have left out the unarmed civilians and everything. In this case, there are foreign terrorists who have been put across by Pakistanis who are Pakistanis, right? And they have perpetuated this act to actually enact and copycat what possibly was done by Balochistan, BLA. The Baloch did not harm unarmed civilians, right? They have only harmed people who were with weapons, the security forces element. So look at the difference, right? The so-called state owned by Pak army and establishment as perpetuated. We have never seen this, right? This is something, a very, very major blow which has come about, and possibly the world community should hang their head in shame in case we can't actually unite together against Pakistan to tell them to mend their act now.
You know, but I want an honest opinion on this. General Asthana, you might want to speak on the security lapse. It clearly looks like a security lapse or an intelligence failure. We know that local reports recently had suggested that there were militant movements or terrorist movements in Anantnag just a few days ago. Why wasn't Baisaran
Nabila,
protected?
There's a breaking news coming in. We've some breaking news coming in here. First on News 9, I've accessed the first list that has come from the Government of India, and I can tell you, Nabila, that two foreign citizens have been killed in this dastardly attack. We are breaking this first. We have now come to know that one citizen from UAE and one citizen from Nepal has been killed. The name of the citizen from UAE is Udwani Radeep Kumar. He's from UAE. He has been killed. And we also know that one more citizen from Nepal, Sundeep Nepane, has been killed. Officially, this is a list that I've accessed. It says 16 are dead and 10 others are injured. But unofficially, I've been told that 27 are dead and there are 12 who are injured. We will break more details as the time passes. And of course, all these dead bodies have been brought in, Nabila, to the district police lines in Anantnag. The casualties are likely to increase, but this is the first confirmation coming in. Two foreign citizens have been killed from UAE and Nepal in this dastardly terror attack in Pahalgam.
That's extremely tragic, and a lot of the families there were either enjoying their holiday, many honeymooners who had gone to the upper reaches of Pahalgam, and it's an area where no vehicles can reach. It's only by foot or by ponies. So an interesting holiday that they hoped to have This is absolutely tragic. More news coming in on 2 foreign nationals who have died among the 16 that have been confirmed dead. Now, the numbers could very well rise. General Asthana, a quick word from you on intelligence failure. If there were reports of terrorist movement in Anantnag days ago, then what stopped them from protecting Baisaran area?
See, as we investigate more, the intelligence failures or the lapses would also come to light. It's fair to assume that if there were 6 to 7 terrorists with weapons and they physically moved in Pahalgam and did fair amount of recce, certainly there must have been some kind of lapse, which it will be premature to comment without the adequate investigation. That's one part of it. Secondly, I must also say there's two. Let's evaluate as an analyst. I would evaluate as to what was the aim and what has been achieved. Now, if the aim was to show India in poor light, I don't think that aim is achieved. If it was to start communal violence, I don't think communal violence has started because everybody has condemned it, A to Z. If it was to mitigate the impact of JD Vance visit or the goodwill visit, I don't think that also has happened. So as far as the internationalization is concerned, I don't think this attack has achieved anything. What it has achieved is a deterrence to the tourists. Now that is what we need to mitigate, because now our emphasis has to be as to how we come out of this and what do we do now. So we did talk about in the debate, I will not repeat that, the overt action and the covert action. I'm sure people who are responsible, they must be planning, and let's grant them the wisdom and the opportunity to do so in a most appropriate manner with adequate planning. No premature action is suggested, and no rhetorics can resolve these things. Now, coming on to the internal side, as far as the protection of tourists is concerned, I think that would be a concern, and that I think we will have to draw out SOPs so that tourists continue to have more confidence and the tourism industry doesn't suffer. Similarly, as far as the development of Kashmir is concerned, I am sure that will continue. I don't visualize that there is a problem there.
Sir, where will tourists have the courage now to go to Kashmir?
Yeah,
That's precisely what they wanted.
That is what is to be built up. That is to be built up. That deterrence has to be reduced in some manner with the kind of confidence which we perhaps will have to build in over a period of time.
So as we're a little short on time, I'm going to get quick views here. PK Mishra, your quick take on the kind of funding that may be coming now. All of you, I think, unanimously, from what I've understood, have come down to Pakistan backing this organization, whichever it is. We are yet to understand who's taken responsibility for it or who's behind it. There are multiple versions. But if this is Pakistan entirely, what kind of message are they really sending out with this, and what's with immediate effect that the Indian government should do?
Yes, I can well tell you definitely it is the LET and TRF. They have taken the responsibility that they have done it. No doubt Pakistan is involved. I can only tell that if we sit quiet, we have to find out a suitable time and date, and we have to give a reply. Like in Pulwama, we didn't reply them the same day or within a week. It was our sweet will. We selected the date and time and the target. It's not only, what is happening in POK and Balochistan. Of course, there the situation will continue as it is going on, and our interest will be there. But another Balakot strike of surgical strike has to be done as per our timing and our date and our preparedness. We have to do it. If we think that we have to think about the world opinion, United Nations opinion, and what others will think, definitely we'll be suffering. I don't here agree with anyone that we have to wait and see.
So you're saying India must be aggressive. There's no time to be soft here.
If we don't do it, we'll suffer. We'll suffer.
Right. General Pandey, a quick word from you on this message that Kashmir is off limits. What should ideally, in your wisdom, that the Indian government and the armed forces can do? What approach do you think we must take?
It's very cognizant of that something will happen, and the Pakistanis should wait for what is going to hit them from the blind side, and that is going to happen. But the fact of the matter remains that there is a strategy which is overt strategy. We should focus and talk on this platform on those facets, and that is the time we need to take Pakistanis to the cleaners this time, because they have given, like what happened in Pulwama, gave an opportunity to brand this country, to put them into a corner, right? It has again given this opportunity to us. They have given this opportunity to put them into a different corner, which is going to be much worse, and more so when two very, very important things are happening. You imagine the Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia, the prime can actually come in from there. And so is the case with Vance being here. A lot of diplomatic maneuvering can commence from here. But what is important is also locally. You know, this whole idea which comes up in the mind of our system, and I've heard this talk for the last about 3 years now, non-stop, that we need to denude forces, we need to come out of everything fine. Why should we allow that to happen? The government needs to understand very, very clearly that peace is peace, and I say permanent peace, where the possibility of a zero suspect incident is long way off. And you please plan for a long haul to get peace in here. It is not going to come in very, very short time. So
we really thought Jammu and Kashmir long way. Sir, as we're short on time, a quick final word from General Shaukin as well. A final word. Yeah, Mr. Pandey, you had something to say?
A number of times I have said this point. This perception is wrong perception.
Yeah.
Right? True. There is calibration in the hand of the enemy all the time, because they are proactive, preemptive. They plan the strategy, they unroll it. We are unfortunate in the counter-terrorist operations will be always reactive and responsive. So they have always upper hand. Somewhere we need to train and change this.
Right. Final word from General Shaukin. You know, the targeted killings, it appears, right after Kashmiri Pandits who were chased out of Kashmir at that point, to now, years, decades later, similar attacks where identity is being questioned and they're gunned down point blank. It really sends out a wave of communal tension across India. This could be the strategy to divide India. Muslims aren't the same in Pakistan and India, worlds apart. But this message that they're trying to send out, how do you think the country should receive it, and how one must as a population react?
Nabila, what is clear is that we first have to assure our public, the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the military leaders, everybody must go address the nation and say tourists were targeted, but our resolve remains firm. The Prime Minister has done this already. The Home Minister has done this. I've seen JD Vance has also done it. So in every possible way, we must first assure our people that the government is in charge. The second issue, as General Pandey also said, is deployment of additional forces, whether the CAPF or the Indian Army. We must come into the Kashmir Valley and ensure that our grid is maintained, and ensure that we wipe out all levels of the overground workers that are there helping out the LET. But we also must ensure that while we're doing it, we ensure humane engagement with the locals. Most locals are not at fault. It's only a particular sum of people who are doing it, and we must identify them. Thirdly, Kashmir was getting its tourism back. We have to protect Kashmir tourism. We have to protect our economy. So we must take visible, non-threatening security presence in tourist areas. As I said earlier, allow tourists only in particular areas and make sure they're protected.